hearts. So great to see you again, have you back in the studio, and today we're going to be traveling. Well, actually we're not traveling, we're going to be traveling later. We're going to be talking about creating a great travel journal, and we had to split it up into two blog posts because I'm going to create a travel journal out of this old antique album. But before we do that, we're going to do that for the next video. Before we do that, I want to go through and show you, page through some of my journals and share some of the tips and tricks that I have about creating a handmade travel journal. But before we do any of that, I wanted to thank you so much for stopping by, for all your comments, your subscriptions. We're almost at 2,000 subscriptions. Really cool, really fun, and I love hearing from you. Thank you for your feedback. It's just great to get all of your questions and your comments, and we so appreciate it, all those thumbs up. And so I want to show you my journals now. Before we get started, I just wanted to show you the finished portrait that I did of Ella. And if you saw my video, my artist studio tour, then you know I was working on this, and I just had to share it with you because I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. And I started with this photograph that E.J. Carr took, and it's just an awesome photo. And worked on photos because I don't have the subject with me. So just really pleased with it, wanted to share it with you, thought you'd want to see it. And then I did one more for my granddaughter using this sweet photo, and did this pencil drawing of her for a birthday present. So shh, don't tell anyone it's her present. So anyway, okay, back to travel journals. We're going to start with my Caribbean journals. Both of these, they're pretty yummy. They are recycled. Of course, this was an old book, and this one was just a really a thin piece of cardboard, and the cover is using walnut ink and acrylic paints, and then this is paper that's stitched to cloth, that's stitched to paper, that's stitched to cloth, and of course this is an image from a Cavallini paper, and this is an old piece of fabric that I had. And this journal, well, I really loved it when I first created it, and I still do love it. It's pretty fun. The tabs are cloth that I hand stitched. And I love the fact that you can take just a piece of junk and then turn it into a piece of art. And you can see different pages going to Antigua. I love little tip-in pages. And then I also glued some khadi paper into the book, which was really fun, but it wasn't as great as watercolor paper, and I'll explain that to you. But I love the tip-ins. For one thing, they obscure the text. And let's see, here's another. This is a watercolor on cloth. So a lot of times I'll use my travel journals as kind of an experimental place. So St. Croix, and some sketches of some of the churches. And these are pieces of khadi paper. This one I stapled in with the tissue paper, and then these are just glued to the page. And this one, and the best journeys answer questions in the beginning you didn't even think to ask. Jeff Johnson said that. Anyway, so I really like it. And this one was old. I think that's like 2010. This one is 2012. And as I said, it was a tiny little book. It was absolutely the perfect size. And I think I said that I don't make a travel journal if we're just going to be gone 4 or 5 days. It's just not enough time for me to create it. But if we're going to be gone at least a week or longer, up to a month, then of course I have to have a travel journal. So this one is a junk journal, and I experimented with using all different kinds of papers and with all different kinds of pens and pencils, and with stickers and rub-ons, and again, the little tip-in pages. One of the things I love about the tip-in pages are it obscures the text so that you can shoot the page and not have to tell your whole story, so everyone doesn't know everything about it. And then little tiny pages that are caught in the book. These are transparencies. It's a transparency that I used. Time running out, journey's almost over, and flying home. So one of the things that that I didn't like about the journal was actually putting the button here, because I did that before I left and it was really hard to use. And then the other thing that I didn't like was I used all different kinds of pens and pencils, and sometimes they bled. And I used scrap papers, and they weren't always conducive to watercolor pencils and water and different media. So that just didn't work out that well. And then the other thing was the rub-ons, which did not hold up over time, even with coating it with gel medium or a gesso, clear gesso. They just kind of crumbled after a while. So I wouldn't use those again. So those are the Caribbean journals. Now we're talking about really long trips. So we're talking about, anywhere from 2 weeks up to a month. And this travel journal was 2016. The other one I'm going to show you last is the one that I made out of an antique photo album. But this one I wanted to share with you. I like this journal. There are some things I really like about it. I liked the fact that that I could just start using it right away, and that it was already ready-made and I didn't have to take the time for it. But I have to tell you, I cut myself short on time. I had lots of deadlines just before we were leaving, and so that's why I used this. Now, the thing I didn't like, also, one of my tips, always put your business card and the information in your journal so that if it gets lost, it can find its way back to you. One of the things I didn't like was it was sketch paper, and so there was just a real limitation to what I could do in this journal. And I could do a little bit of watercolor, but too much really made it muddy. So a fun tip-in page here on Italy from an antique travel book. And so I could do a little bit, and I left room for photos to do it later when I came home. Now, I don't know about you, but I learned that that is not something that I like to do. When I get home, usually I'm running to get things done. And so I just didn't finish this, and that just kind of really bothered me. So I did a few photos and then I just let it go. This is a sketch of St. Peter's Basilica, the floor plan, and Sistine Chapel, and writing about that and what it meant to me. And then see, I was supposed to put a photo here. So I left space for the photos and then just didn't go back to it. So I'm not going to do that in the next one. And it's really good to know what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and to figure those things out, So I love the papers. I found a wonderful store. We found this store in Florence. And we bought all kinds of papers to use, and that was just really fun, all of these. One of the things that you have to have in a travel journal, in my humble opinion, are lots and lots of envelopes, because you're going to have all kinds of tickets and little bits and things that you want to remember and save, and lots of space to write, so you can say what you had for lunch, where you went, what you liked, what you didn't like, because believe me, you're not going to remember. You won't remember it at all. So this is Barcelona, and then this was a museum brochure that I folded over so that it would cover the text, and I could remember what it was like. More pockets. Gotta have pockets for tickets. All kinds of good stuff. More pockets. More tickets. Map of Florence. Gotta have that. All kinds of pockets. And then the problem is the watercolor pencils, of course, just didn't work out as well as what I would like. I had to stop because the paper was turning to mush. So this gives you a good idea. Little tip in there. Drawings. These are all the days at sea. And artwork, lots of collage. I always take lots of collage bits with me, and just a baggie, just scraps and pieces, because that's really all you need. And this is about it. Okay, the other thing is that I wasn't crazy about was all of these pages are unused in this book. So taking a good look at this is about what I'm going to need for 3 months, maybe just a little bit more, maybe say 5 or 6 more pages. So knowing that, I'll know about how many pages I need in the antique journal, which is right here. And I'm going to be thinking about that in the next week or so. And then when we get back together, I'm going to gut this book and redo it. And I'm going to take you on that journey and show you what it's like. Now, this little book here was just like this, just a smaller version. And I gutted it, cut it apart, and took, actually the spine was in really bad shape, so I had to do this. And I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this spine. We'll have to see how that goes. But let me show you this book. This little journal is my favorite one. It's not the latest one, but it's my favorite one. And I just love the way it turned out. And I love the size. It's so little and so sweet, and it was so easy to tuck into things. This one's going to be a little bit harder for me to maneuver and just throw around, but I really do like it and I want to use it. So in this journal, one of the things I loved is, of course, again, pockets. And in fact, this was a fortune cookie that my husband got, because I can't eat fortune cookies, just before we left. And it said, "You are about to embark on a most delightful journey." And that was certainly the truth. So I had to put that in there. I love this Mylar pocket that I created with some washi tape. And I'm going to do that again in this one. And just before we left, we went to see Frida Kahlo, a show in Fort Lauderdale, and so I had to keep that in there with the tickets. And so that was really lovely start to our vacation. And this little journal, of course, I put fabric on the outside and then fabric on the inside and stitched it into the fabric. So here's the page through here, just flipping through real fast, some little sketches. And I used a variety of papers, which I liked, and I used mixed media paper, which made a huge difference. And I used a decal scissor for the edges. So I had lots of time to do sketching and to do collage work, and that was really fun to be able to do that while I was on the ship, because there was a lot of downtime. And we were at sea for several days. You can see that, 7 days. And then I left space in the album for the album photo pages, which I will do this time too, and I'll show you how to do that next time. And I just did front to back photos, your wonderful videographer there. And We went to Lisbon and Giverny, and we saw all kinds of wonderful things, and Rouen, and lots of pockets again with more little bits hanging out. And this was a bouquet that my videographer bought for me, and it was Lily of the Valley on May 1st, so I had to press that and then pop it in the book. And so it was just really a fun, you know, all kinds of little things and tickets that you get that you're going to want to, you know, keep and hang on to, and little pockets and places. You have to make room for all of that to do that. Writing about the London Eye and how terrified I was, and the tickets for it, and there you go. So how did I end up? I think there were 6 pages that I didn't use in here that I probably could have, just didn't judge at the time. So I absolutely love this one, and I'm going to use a lot of the things in here in this journal, and I'm going to show you that next time we get together. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I so appreciate your visits, and next time I'm going to be taking this apart. It's going to take us a while to film it, so maybe a couple days, because honestly I don't know where I'm going with it yet, but I'm going to start figuring that out in the next few days and get going with it. And I really appreciate you coming by. Thank you, and ciao for now.